Let's all take a trip back today in the Wayback Machine to a better time. Although with the dumpster fire 2020 has been, I do admit that does set the bar pretty low. The year was 1989. The OG Game Boy had just released to critical acclaim. The Simpsons was just starting what would become a 30-year run. And Tim Burton's Batman has changed the superhero movie genre forever. And the Sega Genesis, or Mega Drive as it would be known in the rest of the world, was only just starting to show the world how it could do what Nintendo don't. The world was full of promise and hope. But, hidden in the shadows of all that sunshine and rainbows, a parasite was growing stronger, leeching off the successes of the video game industry, releasing mediocre game after mediocre game, all based on whatever movie or toy license it could steal a joy from. And that company was none other than LJN. But I'm not here to talk about how bad LJN was as a company. No, that topic's been covered already by many other people much better than I could hope to. No, this video is about one particularly bad LJN game, one that would mold me into the grumpy, bitter old gamer I am today. And that game was Friday the 13th for the Nintendo Entertainment System. Cue back to the aforementioned 1989, and to a young teenage me. It was Christmas time, and I had just unwrapped Friday the 13th underneath the old Christmas tree. It was a bit of a surprise, because at the time I was completely unaware they'd even made a game based on the movies. But being a younger, much more blissfully optimistic version of me, I popped in this game completely unaware of what I was in for. Spoilers. It was really bad. I mean, really bad. Now that didn't mean I stopped playing it. Oh no. Because back in those days, I'd get a game every year if times were good for Christmas, and if things were really good, maybe one for my birthday, but that was it. So it didn't matter whether the game was good or not. This is what I had to play, and I'd better learn to get some sort of enjoyment out of it. So I kept playing, determined to learn what made it tick. Friday the 13th for the NES is based on the movie series of the same name. I believe they were up to the 8th one at this point in time, and he was already well on his way to taking Manhattan, but in this game, we're back at Camp Crystal Lake. You control one of 16 counselors, each of which have their own strengths and weaknesses, and you can switch between them at any time. But you're only going to want to play as Mark or Chrissy, because the other 4 are all awful, as in game-breaking awful, but I'll talk more about that later. Pressing start shows the overworld map, and you go between side-scrolling action as you go between cabins and rudimentary 3D when inside cabins. In the cabins, you occasionally find potions, notes, or fireplaces, which you'll want to light, because as the game tells you right when you start, you need to light all the fireplaces. Except you really don't have to. It just gives you a better weapon. Speaking of weapons, each counselor starts off slinging rocks, which you will want to upgrade immediately to literally anything else as soon as you can. Especially since you have to crouch when you throw them, because for some reason in this game, you throw them underhand in an arc. And if you aren't crouching, you're going to throw that rock harmlessly over the zombie's head. Pretty standard horror movie fare up to this point, right? LGN wasn't going to be satisfied with standard for their game though. Oh no, because in their game, Jason isn't just going after the teenagers. There are also 3 cabins worth of kids to protect. Yep, Jason's trying to kill them too. And when the alarm goes off, you have to drop whatever you're doing and run to save them. And to do that, you've got to get in a boat and row to their cabins, because for some reason, they're only accessible by boat. Yep. And when you're in a boat, zombies are going to hurl themselves out of the water at you, because that's what zombies do. Also, while in the boat, you can't jump obviously, so when Jason rushes at you, you just have to take it. In a game where you're trying to kill an unstoppable murder psycho with a rock, there is unavoidable damage taken when you go do the one task the game tells you you have to do. So, when you finally get to the cabin where Jason is either ruthlessly killing kids or attacking a fellow counselor, you're greeted with a thank you message from them, and then you awkwardly explore through the cabin until you meet Jason, upon which you begin battle. You'll move around at the bottom of the screen, throwing whatever weapon you have equipped, and awkwardly dodging his punches or slashes. Hit him 7 times before he beats you to death, and he'll run away for a bit. Rinse and repeat until either he's dead, or all your counselors and kids are dead. That's a game, folks. Kill him 3 times. Each time you kill him, the game goes to the next day. And then you'll roll credits. Now, there are some different areas to explore, like a section where you wander around in a cave looking for the floating head of Pamela Voorhees, and you can wander around in the woods looking for hidden rooms and such. But exploring these areas becomes counterintuitive, because even though you get rewarded for completing these sections with weapons and power-ups and such, if Jason attacks the kids or another counselor while you're in these sections, and he will, the only way to switch counselors is to step inside one of the smaller cabins and hit start. And if you're in one of those maze-like areas, by the time you find your way out to do that, they're as good as dead. So the best way to ensure that that doesn't happen to you is to just use your rock or knife and attack him again, and again, and again, until he's dead. Sound like fun? The final feather in the cap of LJN's masterpiece here. Remember how I was telling you earlier that you'll just want to use Mark and Chrissy? Well, that's because occasionally Jason will show up and attack you on the 2D screen as well, rushing at you constantly, which actually isn't too bad, except if you're using anyone not named Mark and Chrissy, because they can't jump high enough to clear him when he rushes. And you'll take more cool, that's some great gameplay design damage. It really does seem like no one at LGN actually play tested this before sending it out, which, looking at it now, is kind of them in a nutshell. And that was Friday the 13th for the NES. So would I call it the worst game ever? Nah, not at all. There were actually some really interesting ideas, and along with the 3D exploration and the multiple playable characters, it had some promise. And the graphics were actually pretty good. In places. I mean, the models of Jason are really solid. The main problem with this game is that none of the game's ideas are flushed out all that well. Even if they were, you wouldn't have time to do any of them because you're constantly chasing Jason around trying to rescue kids and the counselors. It could have been something really good, but it just ended up being a frustratingly hard mess. But thanks for watching, everyone. I'm going to leave a link in the description below where you can watch Ryan experience this masterpiece for the first time last week. And as always, have yourself a great day. Take care. Bye-bye.